Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got two replays in the American Tier 10 Premium Heavy Tank, the MBT-B. Now if you do like the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below, as it really does help out the channel. And yes, the MBT-B, we've got two pretty nice replays for you. It's a premium heavy tank that most people should know, because pretty much everyone got it for free if you logged in between a certain point in time. And it's a pretty okay heavy tank. It's not bad, but it's not exceptional, you know, it's pretty well balanced, if we're honest. And you can do pretty well with it because you've got that flexible American 10 degrees of gun depression, which means you can go hull down very, very well. Although you've got to be very, very careful of the fact that people can pen you in the right-hand side of your turret, or the right-hand side as they're facing you, right? The left-hand side of your turret through what looks like a rangefinder, because the rangefinder actually isn't modelled. So it's just completely, the shells just go straight through it. And that means that it hits the plate, which is actually a flat 240, directly behind it. Which means that any tank that's firing 260, 270 pen is going to go through that left-hand side of your turret. So you've got to be very, very careful of that. But that's why you keep moving up and down on a ridgeline when you're hull down, and make it as difficult as possible for people to be able to pen you. The other thing is, if they do go through that section as well, you've got to be careful because they will Armour you as well, which is also pure pain for the MBT-B. But the hull armour, the actual upper hull armour, is pretty decent on the MBT-B. And it will bounce you a decent amount unless you are going against like extremely high pen tier 10 rounds. And the lower plate is garbage, but that's the way it always tends to be, right? The lower plate is usually poo. But you can side scrape with this vehicle, as you do have 65mm of thickness on the side armour. You just got to be careful because it does have a little cheek on the side that can be penned again by higher pen rounds, because it's only 165mm of thickness, and it can catch rounds, but it is well angled, so it can still ricochet. But when you are side scraping, you just have to be very, very, very careful with it. This 120mm gun is also pretty nice. You have 3.1, nearly 3.2k DPM, which isn't that great, but you do have 420 alpha for 265 penetration on the standard AP rounds, and 330 heat pen, which is beautiful because that butchers absolutely everything. 90mm of pen on the HE rounds is something not to be slept on, by the way, for 515 damage. It means you can go through quite a lot of the really thinly armoured targets quite easily, which means that you can do that higher alpha shell for 515. You do have 1200 meters a second shell velocity on the standard AP, which is absolutely fantastic. For an AP round, that is really good. You got 1000 meters a second shell velocity on the heat round, which means it is a little bit slower than the AP round, so bear that in mind. And 900 meters a second shell velocity on the HE round, so it is a bit slower. So if you do load HE, bear in mind that you're really going to have to give a fair bit more lead than you will do with the standard or the premium. You have 512 meters of view range with the build that I run on this tank, which means you can spot for yourself quite handily as well. It means you're not going to be outspotted all that easily. I mean, you will get outspotted because you don't have any camo, being a heavy tank, right? But you will be able to spot most of the targets that will be looking at you, especially if they fire at you. You've got a 7.95 second reload, which with a 0.28 accuracy, you're going to hit quite a few of those shells, because this gun is actually fairly accurate. With a 0.63 accuracy during rotation and a 1.32 accuracy during movement with the build that I have as well, means this gun is always pretty much fully aimed, which is really good for the MBT-B. Means you can snap shots like a boss. With 2.12 second aim time as well, means that if your gun does bloom out a little bit, it doesn't take long at all to get the gun aimed in and ready to go. And again, it means that you can just keep pumping out these 420 alpha rounds. Something to bear in mind is that you have 34 degrees a second turret rotation with the build that I have, which means that it is exactly the same speed as your hull rotation. So your turret basically just keeps up with the hull, but if you turn the turret the opposite way to the hull, naturally it's going to have a little bit of time to catch up and try and keep up with the target. So just bear in mind that if you want to keep your turret on target on a target that is going round you, turn the same way as the tank is moving, and turn the turret the same way as the tracks, essentially. It does also have a 40km/h top speed, this MBT-B, with a 1000 horsepower engine, which is 16.67 horsepower per ton ratio. This tank does hit its 40km/h top speed, and for a heavy tank, it's fairly mobile. 40 kilometers. I mean, I always say that the 35km/h mark is about an average top speed for a heavy tank. So at 40 kilometers an hour, this is actually a fairly mobile heavy tank, which can be quite nice for the MBT-B to be able to get yourself about the battlefield and slap those rounds in. Something to be careful of with this tank, though, is it does kind of like getting set on fire if you do get penned through the lower plate, and especially in the back end, because you do have a 20% internal fire chance, which is on the higher end of fire chances. So be very, very careful with this vehicle, because it does like to get lit on fire every now and then. So what do I run in terms of a crew and equipment? Well, I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Steady Aim, Snapshot, Run and Gun, and Rapid Aim alongside Track Mechanic. Track Mechanic because I'm a brawling heavy tank, so I like to be able to get my tracks back on as quickly as possible. The 3 gun perks to be able to make sure this gun is as good as it can be, with Rapid Aim to make that turret traverse catch up to the hull traverse, because like I say, the hull traverse and the turret traverse are the same if you run Rapid Aim and all the other little bits and bobs. And then in terms of the equipment, I run the Advanced Loader, the Gun Stabilizer, and Optics. Optics to be able to get myself up to that 512 meters of view range. The Gun Stabilizer to get my accuracy during rotation and movement down as low as possible so that the gun bloom isn't that big. And the Advanced Loader to make sure that I have as good a DPM as possible. Because like I say, if you don't make the DPM better, it's really not that great. It's definitely on the below average side in that regard. I mean, if you wanted to, because the accuracy during rotation and movement is already pretty good, if you don't run the gun stabilizer, your accuracy during rotation and movement will be 0.78 and 1.6 respectively, which is still very good. It means this gun won't bloom out quite as much. It just means that the gun won't be snappy like it is as you're seeing here, which is one of the reasons that I do that, because I just want to make sure this gun is going to be able to snap the shots in, especially on the move, and just keep the shots flowing with fairly decent accuracy. But like I say, it could be a bit overkill. You don't actually realistically have to run the gun stabilizer if you feel quite happy with it, and that means that you will be able to run the traction system if you wanted to get up to 44 km/h top speed, which on a flat you'll probably hit. You could run vents to make your DPM better, make everything else about the tank generally better if you wanted to. You could run the armor. Was it armor angling? Not armor angling. Armor angling is the perk. You could run armor angling as a perk alongside the advanced armor equipment system to reduce damage coming into your heavy tank by 10% if you wanted to. It's down to you and how you feel comfortable playing the vehicle. There's never really a right or wrong way to set up a vehicle. There's always ways to help out how you play it and play styles and all that sort of good stuff. So as you've seen in this first replay, we have managed 5.3k damage to 681 assistance, and it's currently 4-4. You sure managed to get the finishing shots on the QL and the T32 earlier on, because we loaded HE. Because we could have bounced on that QL, I didn't want to risk bouncing with 265 pen off its lower plate, because he was in the sort of perfect locations to keep his lower plate hidden, which means it would have been very, very awkward to penetrate. And with the HE, with being decent damage, and only being on about 120 to 130 hit points, I knew that I could possibly splash him to death with the HE. So that's why we loaded the HE, and then the T32 exposed himself, and we managed to finish him off with it, which was beautiful. And then with the last HE round we had in the tank, we came round and finished off the QL as well. We're on 5 kills, with there being only the 4 tanks left. And again, we know where 2 of them are currently. There's the APM X30 that we've just seen. There was a tank down here in the dip somewhere as well. And just as we're poking over, we get detected. And I'm thinking, oh, well, that's not the medium tank route. That's got to be something else. That's got to be the TD that was over this way as well, because that must be why I'm not seeing him. So we're being as careful as possible, because we only have 972 hit points. And like I say, this game is still on a bit of a knife's edge, and I really don't want to lose it at this point. So we're staying in the strength point of the MBT-B, which is hull down. Something fires APCR at us, which I'm assuming was the medium tank. We fire it at a miss, or fire it where we thought it was a miss. And there you go, it's an SU-101 directly in front of us on the ridgeline. We bounce off his upper plate, we bounce the APM X30's APCR round, and I'm just trying to get into the dip as quickly as possible. He fires HE at us, the SU-101. Our shot flew directly underneath the SU-101, because of course it did, why not? And that guy gets finished off by the MBT, not by the MBT-B, by the SU-1, the MX-50B. It's because I saw the B, that's why. Brain, English, hard, it's fine. And the APM X30 managed to poke round the corner as well and get a shot into our lower plate. We've only got heat rounds left, which, to be honest, is going to make dealing with this APM X30 very, very easy because, well, 330 heat pen will absolutely butcher this poor guy. He's now a one-shot for us. And, of course, we low roll! 411 HP. We've got 420 alpha damage. We should have killed him in one shot, which means that he puts us down to a one shot, making it very, very close run thing there as to who was going to reload first. Thank you, RNG. Always nice and kind of you to go to me. Big middle fingers. And make it a very, very close run thing to the possibility that we could have died there. But we did secure our 6th kill of the game, so we've actually got a top gun, which is beautiful, for 6.5k damage, 1400 assistance. We end up spotting the MBT-B in the distance. We put a heat shell through his lower plate. He fires HE at us, which means we were fairly lucky probably not to die there. He could have killed us quite easily with that HE round, but okay, we'll take it. We're up to 6.9k damage because of our shell hitting that MBT-B. But he is hidden behind that ridgeline, same as the other MBT-B is, which means we're not going to get any more shots at them as they are currently fighting the tortoise. And well, especially when the tortoise is full health and you're not, the tortoise tends to absolutely farm you because the tortoise has such good DPM that if you get stuck in its gun arc, well, it's not going to end well. But actually, the MBT-B has used his mobility to get around the tortoise, so we're trying to take as wide a berth as possible to see if we can angle up on top of this hilltop to try and get a shot into the back of the MBT-B. But the MX-50B shuts down the MBT-B, and we end up finishing the game with a really nice total there for the MBT-B with the victory. 6 kills, 7k damage, 1400 assistance, that's what, 8.5k combined. Ace Tanker, High Caliber, Top Gun, Steel Wall for 1879 base XP. A really nice game there for the MBT-B on Redshire. And it was one of those games where we got fairly unlucky in some regards and fairly lucky in others, where we should have died to the HE round, probably to the MBT-B, but also it's probably RNG just giving us the RNG giveth and the RNG taketh, right? Because we should have killed the APA MX-30, and that meant we wouldn't have been a one-shot for the HE round of the MBT-B, possibly, if, well, it depends on the splash, right? But that meant that when we came against the MBT-B, RNG giveth, and we managed to survive with 10 hit points and a dream, and we finished with nearly 7k damage, which is always nice. But we're on to the second replay, and the second replay we're on Arctic Region. And on Arctic Region, what I'm going to do in my MBT-B is go to the place where I feel like I'm going to be the strongest I can be in this vehicle, which is hull down at the position at C2. If I have enough people covering me from behind, they should be able to farm the people that do try to overexpose to attack me in that C2 position, but I can also stay hull down with my 10 degrees of gun depression and just keep slapping the rounds out with 420 alpha, which can be a pretty good time. So their 430U has attacked very aggressively. We've got my Batchat friend here with us as well. So the Batchat's now farming up on the 430U. I stay behind this ridgeline so that it makes it so he can't shoot the lower plate of the MBT-B. And the Batchat ends up finishing him off. The Valor's in a little bit of a hull down location in the distance. There's also a 268 who we fire out on the move and sadly ricochet off the front of. But again, we're just keeping our lower plate covered behind these ridgelines. And we can't quite see the Valor's side. He misses us. And in this sort of location, it's where the Valor's obviously going to do far better than us, because he's got a very, very good turret front, whereas I have a good turret front, except for that little zone on the left-hand side, which can make me vulnerable to just catching shots, because it's one of those positions on the turret where basically people will shoot at you, and without realising that they could actually pen you there, we'll just hit it anyway, get lucky and pen it. And it's one of those frustrating weak points where, yeah, people do pen it without realising that it's actually a weak spot, and you go, oh, come on, you know. But we've tracked the 268, who has been very, very aggressive. We do have 2 TDs and a heavy tank directly behind us, and this is where it can be a very good choke point to hold for a tank like the MBT-B, because we can just keep these guys lit up, we can keep farming them, if we can keep tracking them in the open and giving our 2 TDs and the heavy tank behind us the ability to shoot with impunity at these guys, that means our assistance damage will also start flying up. So we're actually up to 2.9k assistance so far with 1978 damage. And we're just trying to maneuver ourselves into a better position to start getting shots at people like the 268 and this 257. Also a Moisture in front of us, who we end up ricocheting off his side. The dead 268 is making this a little bit awkward to get the perfect position for us to be able to get shots at these guys without overexposing. But we do put a shot straight through the upper plate of the 257. You can see I'm just pushing the dead rack out the way, because now I've got the perfect place I want to be, where I can only expose my turret front to these guys. We are still spotting them, like I say, for the guys behind us, which will feed us some assistance damage. And we put a shot through the cupola there of the 257 as our friends managed to pen him and put him down to the one shot. We are going to go for the cupola of the Moistion here, but we don't actually have to do that, as we can actually go straight through the turret front of the poor Moistion. It's a very, very sad tank, that tier 9 German super heavy, because while it does have very, very good hull armor, the turret front armor is also just a little bit sad, because, again, we've got 265 penetration AP rounds, and we can go straight through the turret cheeks of that guy very easily. I mean, he could angle, but at the same time, we could just hit the cupola if he angles. And that is, again, very sad for the Moisture. It's one of those tanks that I really feel probably needs a buff, and having turret cheeks that are a lot stronger so that it can bounce off the turret cheeks, but, you know, and it can angle and reduce the ability for you to pen it. But like I say, he was angling the turret there, and we just went, well, cupola then, and straight through the cupola with no problem whatsoever. Yeah, it's just a sad, sad tank, but it is what it is. We're up to 4.5k damage with 4.7k assistance. We put a shot through the lower plate of the MBT-B that was in front of us, and that MBT-B also put a shot through our turret, which is why our commander died. We get a shot through the side of the MBT-B as he was distracted, but he's clearly gone, no, I want to shoot you. He's exposing the lower plate, so we're just going to keep farming the shots through this guy's lower plate. And the Griller! The Grill 15 just comes in and goes, hello, friend! And puts a big shot straight through that guy's upper plate. No chill whatsoever. We're up to 5.3k damage with 4.8k assistance. The Badger is the last one on the enemy team. He's dived into the water, but the Gorilla 15 managed to secure the dive bomb. And we finished the game with a pretty good total there for the MBT-B on Arctic region. We finished with the epic victory. 3 kills, 5.3k damage, 1786 base XP, and with the 4.8k assistance as well, that's 10k combined. And I finished with the Ace Tanker, the Sniper Medal, with that 1786 base XP. A pretty damn nice game again for the MBT-B, which again is just a fairly well-balanced premium heavy tank. It's not really exceptional in any way, but it's also not bad, realistically. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
A great success.